Good afternoon. I'm Cindy Bertram, and thanks for joining me today on Good Ship Happens. Yes, we've had some really wonderful things coming up this week, including one that really brings tears to my eyes. Cruise lines do a lot to help people, but in different ways. And something that just came up again with Carnival Cruise Line is the Carnival Spirit actually rescued 24 people stranded on a small boat. Yes. Sorry, it just makes me feel so good that they were able to do this. What happened was there are 24 people there actually on a small boat in the Caribbean Sea on Tuesday, earlier this week. And the Carnival Spirit was actually at sea sailing towards Aruba, which is near the Dominican Republic and also Puerto Rico, when the ship's officers spotted a group in distress. And the crew was able to actually bring all 24 of those people on board safely. And the group was checked out by the ship's medical personnel, and they're found to be in good condition, which is great. And then, of course, they were able to coordinate a transfer at 3 p.m. The Coast Guard cutter actually arrived at the ship to actually complete the transfer near La Romania, Dominican Republic, and the Carnival Spirit then returned to its voyage. And the good thing is the Carnival Spirit had no scheduled stops on Tuesday, and so our visit to Aruba on Wednesday was able to take place as scheduled. But once again, how fantastic to hear this kind of news too, because we don't hear about this kind of things. It's another great example of Good Ship Happens, which I love to share on my show. So once again, cruise lines do come in whenever they need to help out people too. And sometimes they hear about this through the Coast Guard. Sometimes they just happen to see a group in distress, like in this case. But once again, they rescued those 24 people. They were safe, which is great, and the cruise continued on. And then the Carnival Spirit was actually going to be returning to Port Miami actually tomorrow on April 15th. So that was a good story for me to share today. Good Ship Happens. Something else that is fun right now, as mentioned, we have a lot of anniversaries and birthdays and things coming up. One is actually with Holland America Line. And what they did was they actually are celebrating their 150th anniversary. Yes. What they did was they started doing some events last year to coincide with their actual anniversary date, which is actually coming up this next week on April 18th. They did this whole year with different types of things going on, special celebrations, shipboard events around the world. And once again, too, is with Holland America Line celebrating their 150th anniversary. What they did was their first ship years ago, 150 years, was the Rotterdam. They have another Rotterdam ship. And what they did was last fall, they had the Rotterdam actually sail from the Rotterdam, come to New York, where she docked. They did special events to kind of launch their 150th anniversary. But once again, as mentioned, her actual anniversary is coming up on April 18th. So what they did was right now, the Rotterdam is actually sailing from Rotterdam over to New York. And then she's going to be at New York on that date. And the Rotterdam, actually at 7, is going to arrive at the namesake, and which is great too. So what they're doing is the Rotterdam is actually going to arrive in their namesake Rotterdam in the Netherlands to celebrate with other dignitaries. Sorry, I got it confused. But once again, the Rotterdam is actually sailing right now to Rotterdam in the Netherlands, where they're going to celebrate things on April 18th next week, which is great. And they're going to have a lot of different events going on board. And that includes, of course, their president, Gus Antorich. He's going to be leading the celebration, which is great. Also, they're going to have different events. The Royal Highness Princess of the Netherlands and the godmother of the Rotterdam, and also the mayor of Rotterdam are going to be there too. Once again, it's just a great event to kind of celebrate their 150th year anniversary too. And also they're doing different special things too, but I thought it would be good to share that too, because once again, to think about cruise lines, you don't think that they've been around that long, but they have. And to actually celebrate 150th anniversary is really fantastic, or birthday too. So just want to share more about that too with you today. Something upcoming in too is we have something else coming up too with Princess Cruises. What they're doing is they've got just announced this, and what they're doing is there are going to be 2 Princess cruise ships that are going to be based in the United Kingdom to celebrate the crowning of King Charles III next month, and that's going to be in May. And what they're doing is guests on board the Sky Princess and the Regal Princess, which are both sailing out of Southampton, England, will enjoy a host of different activities that are designated to celebrate King Charles' ascension to the throne, which is really, really, I think, a fun thing to do too. What they're doing on both of these ships, which, as mentioned, are the Sky Princess and the Regal Princess, what they're doing is they're going to have live coverage of the coronation services, and also they're going to be doing different things too, along with Royal Afternoon Tea, which is fun on both ships, complete with British favorites too. And then they're going to have guest speaker who is a former butler to the king. Grant Harold is going to be doing some things that's going to take place in the Regal Princess between May 3rd and then on to the 5th, and also then we'll be on the Sky Princess between May 6th and also the 13th. And as mentioned, Harold is actually a former British Royal Household member and a leading etiquette expert and a royal commentator and a broadcaster too, which is great too. So you think about these fun things going on with cruise ships and how they celebrate different things. That's kind of a fun thing too. Something else we've got too is we've got a lot of new ships coming out this year, including the new MSC World Explorer, which is coming out, and she has arrived in Europe and spent her maiden season in the Arabian Gulf, which is great too. What they're doing too is then coming up this summer, as mentioned, we've got Explorer Journeys, which is another component of the MSC group. They actually own MSC Cruises, and the Explorer Journeys is their new luxury ship company coming out, and that ship is going to actually debut this summer in Europe. But that's kind of a fun thing to think about too. As mentioned in my previous episode, I think I mentioned that they did decide to have a renowned oceanographer, Sylvia Earle, who's actually been selected to serve as the godmother for the Explorer 1. And that's going to take place during her July 8th naming festivities in Civitavecchia, which is great too. So another fun thing to think about too, as far as new ships and the christenings and celebrating things too, whether it's a brand new ship or in the case of Holland America Line, celebrating the 150th anniversary, which is really, I think, a fantastic thing to think about too. As far as something else that came up too, we have a lot of wonderful food on board cruise ships. And one of the really fantastic chefs I've gotten to know over the years, it's Rudy Soderman. He's actually head of the culinary arts for Holland America Line plus Princess Cruises. And what he's doing is, I've met him several times. He's really a great person. I always tell people his cuisine is almost too pretty to eat. Yes, it's too pretty to eat. It's gorgeous. But what they're doing is they have a new restaurant that's coming soon to Princess Cruises, and it's going to be called, it's going to be, as a kind of a fun twist, it's going to be called The Catch by Rudy. And it's the first Princess restaurant that really is focused on seafood, and will also feature Chef Rudy's contemporary interpretations of classic dishes, which is great. It's going to actually be debuting on the Enchanted Princess when the ship emerges from dry dock, and also will appear soon on their Majestic Princess on May 5th, and then in time for the Alaskan season, because Alaskan season does start in May. We'll also be on the Sky Princess May 7th, sailing from Southampton to Baltic Cruises. And then in the fall, we'll actually be on board the Discovery Princess. And what they're doing is this venue, which is called The Catch, is going to replace Bistro Sur la Mer. And it's just a way that Rudy wants to deliver a new way to enjoy seafood in a fresh perspective, as he says, to something that diners maybe thought they never knew, in a very, very unexpected but moral way too. And it's going to have headlines like Beauty on the Plate, the Tower of Taste, and the place settings will be really distinctive. So once again, and people that actually be able to dine there will actually be served a special cocktail created by mixologist Rob Floyd, and these wines will also be handpicked too. And the dishes that would be actually included in the Catch by Rudy are going to include Asian fried calamari, a lobster with garlic butter crust, also Rudy Seidemann signatures called the Towering Trio, and a whole Dover sole, also seafood trolley with display fresh lobster, shrimp, oysters, mussels, piled high. And there are also going to be vegetarian choices too, beef classics like steak fritters, or steak frites, I think I pronounced it correctly, will be right along with Rudy's creative twist too. And again, this is kind of a specialty restaurant, so there's going to be an additional charge, but definitely worthwhile because once again, his cuisine is just fantastic. I love they're doing the twist with the focusing on seafood and also including Chef Rudy's contemporary interpretations of classic dishes too. And then also new on the Enchanted Princess, the Catch by Rudy is going to be located across the guest services on deck 5 and also replaced where Bistro Sur La Mer was actually previously located too. And the Enchanted Princess is going to start having this on April 15th, which is great too. So once again, it's really great to think about great place to eat on your cruise ship. Of course, the food they include is fantastic, but they do have some specialty choices, especially dining rooms. It's definitely good to maybe splurge a little bit on that too and really enjoy something new and different. And once again, I've had the pleasure of knowing Chef Rudy Seidemann for several years. He's really fantastic, has a great background. And I tell people, yes, his cuisine is almost too pretty to eat. So once again, it's fun. I think that the Catch by Rudy is going to actually be debuted on board Princess Cruises along with other ships too that are owned by the Carnival Corporation, which is great too. So that's kind of a fun twist because once again, when people go on cruises, they think, okay, what can I have for dinner? Where do I go? But there's so many options out there and you can kind of pick and choose. Plus, one thing I've seen over the years that's come up a lot is a lot of cruise lines have actually focused into going into anytime dining. They sell their main restaurants, but with main dining, kind of pick and choose when you want to dine at a certain place besides the alternative restaurants. And something else that we're seeing with the luxury cruise lines, they're not having main dining rooms at all. A good example, of course, is Virgin Voyages. They actually have 3 different ships. The Scott Lady was the first one I had a chance to see it. They decided not to have main dining rooms on board their ships. They have different choices, and of course, the choices are all included in the cost of the cruise too, which is great because I had a chance to actually see the Scott Lady back in fall of 2021 when she was going to be sailing for the first time out of Port Miami, which is great to finally see the ship after writing about it and reading about it. So that was fun. But once again, cruise lines really focus on different things as far as choices, as far as dining, and they do incorporate famous chefs, of course, too, which is great. And I think it's just a fun thing to think about, too, when you're thinking about taking a cruise, because once again, how cruising started out years ago is much different than what it is today, and it keeps getting better and better and better, which is great. Different choices to enjoy different kinds of cuisine, and entertainment is fantastic, depending on what you want to see, what's included. And the option, too, is we do have, of course, river cruise lines, besides the ones that are in Europe, which are fantastic. We have ones that actually sail out of the United States. I mentioned 2, American Queen Voyages, which is fantastic. And also they just celebrated, I think, their 11th anniversary. And also we have American Cruise Lines, which is just in the process of launching one of their new ships, which is great too. But over in Europe, we've got great choices as far as river cruise line ships too, because once again, it's a great way to really see and experience Europe in a different way. That way you don't have to necessarily book a trip, go from one hotel to another hotel to another hotel, because the ship takes you to those beautiful places too. And one thing that is important, I think, to really share with people is river cruise lines really they actually have some shorter cruises out there too. It's nothing new, but a number of river cruise lines have actually now been offering, I think, some shorter cruises that are shorter than maybe 7-day voyages. Once again, you can actually take a 7-night cruise on a river cruise, and usually they actually fly you in the day before, which is very important, especially if you're flying, and also have a chance to fly you back maybe the day after the cruise ends. That way you have a chance to really kind of relax and enjoy things, because once again, if you're flying over from the United States to Europe, that's a long flight. So you want to make sure you can actually enjoy a little bit, not get too tied up with just racing around like crazy. But once again, too, is we've got some really fantastic options there now too, because another cruise line that just actually officially started, I think in March, was actually Riverside Luxury Cruises. And on Riverside, what they do is they actually purchased 4 of the cruise ships, river cruise line ships that had been owned by Crystal Cruises, which unfortunately went under after the pandemic hit. But what happened was they offer now some shorter options too, which is great. So I think that's kind of fun to think about too, because once again, with Riverside Luxury Cruises, they actually offering 3 4-night itineraries on the Riverside Mozart, which is their ship they just launched, on the Danube River, which is great. And then on the Riverside Revel, which is going to be sailing on the Saône and Rhone rivers. Okay. Something else, another cruise line is actually AMA Waterways. They just celebrated over 20 years in business. They're fantastic. And the fun thing is about AMA Waterways, their co-founder is actually a former architect. He's known as the architect of the river cruise industry too, which is great. But once again, they've been around over 20 some years now. And AMA Waterways, AMA, by the way, means love. Yes. And what they're doing is they've actually introduced shorter itineraries on the Danube River this year, which is great. So they actually have a new 5-night Majestic Capitals of the Danube itinerary. It's going to take guests through the capital cities of Hungary, Austria, and Slovakia. And then also this itinerary is going to be offered in April, May, and December on board the Amalia, the Ama Viola, and then on their Double with Ama Magna ship too. Another one is Avalon Waterways, which is great. And also Emerald Cruises and also Amadeus River Cruises. They're actually offering some shorter options on the Rhine and Danube rivers. And Avalon Waterways is actually having a 4-day cruise on the upper Danube, and it's going to be sailing between Budapest and Vienna. Also, there's a 5-day cruise between Frankfurt and Basel on the Rhine and Moselle. And then there's a 5-night holiday season cruise between Frankfurt and Basel, and it focuses on the Christmas markets in France's Alsace region and Germany. Also, Emerald Cruises has 2 5-day holiday cruises on the Danube, the Rhine, and Main rivers. And then Amadeus River Cruises has 2 5-day Advent cruise itineraries on the Rhine River between Cologne and Strasbourg. And also we're seeing, ironically too, I think it's good too, is some shorter river cruises in Egypt because they will sail on the Nile River, which is fantastic. I've not been there, but my parents had a chance to go there. But there's a relatively new cruise line called Historia Cruises, and they're one of the newest river cruise lines. They're actually going to be launching on the Nile River, and they're going to be offering a variety of shorter cruises too. So in addition of your 7-night cruises, round-trip cruises on the Nile, Historia's got 1-way, 3- and 4-night cruises that are going to be departing on Mondays and Fridays. And once again, just some options to think about too if you are thinking about maybe taking a river cruise, maybe over in Europe, because once again, it's a beautiful way to really experience Europe. Obviously, they still have the longer cruises too. Usually 7 nights or longer too, which is great. But there's a lot of choices out there too. So don't think you're missing out on anything. Just kind of keep that in mind too, because once again, river cruising is a really wonderful way to experience different places. You want to go that route rather than on the ocean too, which is great too, because there's so many choices out there too right now, and it's good to kind of provide you with different things going on right now. There's so many wonderful things going on because once again, I really like sharing these in Good Ship Happens every week too. Mark, did you have any questions for me or not?
How you doing? I had a couple of videos that I was pulling up because there's some very important jobs that are on a cruise ship as well, and sometimes folks don't always think about all these jobs that exist on a cruise ship because there are a number of jobs that you can have when you are on that cruise ship, and definitely there are a number of amazing ones. And I pulled on a couple of these, and we're going to see if we can get a couple of them to play. One of them is a little bit longer than 10 minutes, but we're going to see a very important job that I know a lot of folks are very much interested in. And then I'm going to bring another one in and all in that space, but we're going to do this one the old fashioned way because when you went on the cruise ship, there was definitely a person that is very important to the cruise ship because, if you're on a cruise, you want to get those keepsakes, those memories, and the things in that space. So, one of those people that is very important to that space is the cruise ship photographer. And I've also got some information about the cruise ship person that is involved in the space of the DJ. Because, sometimes you're on a party and you're on a boat and you have these parties going on and you definitely want to get that party groove going in that sense as well. So we're going to find out about the day in the life of a cruise ship operator and a cruise ship camera person and all in that way. Because like I said, a lot of times when you're on these ships, this is a very important person. So we're going to hear from Daniela Buddha, who is apparently a cruise ship photographer, and we're going to hear what she's got to say about her job. And we might watch parts of this, and then we'll definitely be learning about the DJ as well. So let's check out a little bit about what Daniela has to say about her job as a cruise ship photographer and check out what she's all about in this space. So let's catch out the life in the day of a cruise ship photographer.
Look like I'm about to go on live television. Hi, how you doing? Live from St. Martin, this is Daniela. Look at my hair. It's a bit shorter than I'm used to having it. It'd be a great idea for me to not see myself right now. Guess what? Another successful day at sea. Okay, stay there. Can we take a moment to appreciate that I've got some peace and quiet for today's setup? And as much as I tried to fight against filming in my room, I really appreciate being out in port and being able to record myself in the cabin when it comes to the things and the messages that I want to put across. Beautiful day at sea in between the Dominican Republic, La Romana, and Philipsburg, St. Martin tomorrow. Just came back to my room after a day at work, and I was so mentally prepared to do this, but I've managed to smash a glass in the middle of my room just before. So after putting up a sweat to rub the carpet and clean the glass, we can now proceed to record this video. In Romania, it's presumed that broken glass brings good luck. So may we share this good luck together. I was reading through the latest questions that I've received, and I can address them in a separate video. However, one of them particularly stood out when it comes to making a video on the day in the life of a cruise ship photographer, and I thought this would be a great point. And I'll start with today. Today was a casual sea day, and by casual I mean that on every day, based on the entertainment on board, the dress code of the day is decided, and certain entertainment events are hosted around the theme of the day. These types of days are named differently depending on the cruise line. It can be celebration night, formal night, black tie night. Those are the elegant nights when there's a dress code for the main areas around the ship. However, the majority of the days are casual days. Depending on the type of cruise that you have, on the management, on the priorities, on the length of the cruise, casual sea days can look in more than one way. Depending on the size of the team, there's a lot of variables. So there's no one answer sums it all answer that I can give you. However, take it for us, for example, the priority was just to do some internal housekeeping in the first part of the day, some internal organization. For the later part of the evening, we started doing shoots for the guests in the form of walking around the ship, as well as doing portrait setups. The photography department also has a photo gallery where guests go to see the photos they had taken or to collect the orders they had placed, and just to get some general information about the services that we provide. So today certainly looked different for everyone across the team, depending on their tasks, on their level of responsibility, on how many shoots we were assigned to do for the day, of how the setup looked like, and the post-production time as well as the delivering time for the guests. This kind of sounds like I'm answering the question, but I'm not answering the question. However, the backbone of the business still implies photographing people, communicating with them how they can acquire the photos and what they can leave home with, then delivering, ensuring that the post-production and the delivering part of the business is taken care of, and delivering it. If it wasn't clear for you at this stage, a photography role on cruise ships would imply that you photograph the passengers on board the ship. There's certainly all sorts of tasks and other jobs that you can have depending on the role division across different companies. However, this kind of sums it up. Now, if we've established that the process of photography is the same, it is very different to photography on land. I tend to compare a job in retail, for example, in shops. Let's take a beauty shop, for example, that has certain beauty products. Regardless of how different the roles of the sales assistant is, it is the same on land compared to ships. And I'm not comparing the lifestyle and everything behind the scenes. I'm just comparing having your shop floor with the products at hand and then serving the guests or selling the items to the guests. Whereas in photography, the dynamic is completely different than the one of a photographer on land. To resume the conversation after the type of casual day we've had today, a full sea day, there are also port days. Again, depending on the cruise line, there's a good chance that you can have that port time free for yourself to enjoy the time off in port. However, there are a lot of cruise lines who do a lot of work in port. I'd say that compared to sea days, regardless of how much work you do on a casual port day, the port day does have more time off than the sea day does. If you've had the port time to yourself and then you come to work in the evening, then again, you would resume shooting one way or another, taking guests around the ship or setting up fixed studios, taking the photos, processing them, processing the orders that have been placed throughout the day, and delivering them. Moreover, there's plenty of training from either the company that you work for or the cruise ship or cruise ship related training that you need to attend. More than full sea days or casual port days, there are also the formal and celebration nights that I was telling you about. I cannot tell if this is across all cruise ships at all, but this type of days happen on all the ships that I have worked for. This formal sea days that I'm talking about refer more for the night period, for the evening. The first part of the sea day is a casual normal sea day. However, in the evening the entertainment turns a bit more formal. There's a dress code to the evening, which, long story short, if all the passengers around the ship dress up and they look very presentable and in a more festive mood, we are there to capture their photos. From my experience, these are consistently the most busy times for the photography department. Even if you've done wedding photography, I think formal nights can teach you something new and show you a different side of photography that you may have not known before. I hope this painted a picture of how a day in the life of a photographer can look like. but it's important to remember that this is on repeat for anywhere between 4 to 9 months, depending on the length of the contract that you have.
So that was a little bit about that particular part of the photographer. I'm sure we've all run across them if you've been on a cruise and all in that space, and they are oftentimes busy and oftentimes trying to tell you the different products that they've got in mind. And like she said, there are sometimes the formal activities, and there's some of the activities that they might go as you are going on those excursions. So sometimes you might be doing your own photography, but the cruise lines, as she mentioned, have their own photographers and they have their own photography rules as well. So definitely that's interesting insight that she gave us in that space. And like I said, that was just part of that particular video. And I do have one that I'm going to bring up about the DJ later on as well, because there's a gentleman that talks about how he became a DJ on a cruise ship. And I think that would definitely be of interest to a lot of folks in that space, because definitely that is one of the other ones that I had in this space. But as I load that one up, and I've got your favorite person, Captain Kate McCoo, who's going to talk about what it's like to be a captain and all in that space and everything. But what was your own observations of working with the ship photographers? Because like I said, they are oftentimes on the boat just like the art salesman, and they definitely are trying to get you some keepsakes. And sometimes people want the more professional aspects versus the one that they might get from their personal cameras, even though they're arts and professional photographers that went. As I was telling you, my good friend Martin Freed just came back from a cruise that he went on with his wife, his 2 sons, and the sons' significant others of the time. So it was about 6 of them that just came back off of a Norwegian cruise. And I'm sure that Martin took some amazing photographs. He actually sent me some, and I may have them ready to show on the network, if not later on today, definitely on next week, because he definitely sent me some of the pictures that they took as they went, I think, to the Dominican Republic, Aruba, and some of the other Latin American and Caribbean kind of areas. So definitely he is one of those folks that doesn't always go on the beaten path. So he might have done some excursions, but I'm sure he also went on some of the ones that are more off the beaten path and are more kind of naturally run by the people of those countries, and not so much what the tourists are going to have you watch.
Right. Because once again, too, is, I mean, people take selfies all the time. Come on. You're glued to your phone. You take a selfie here, 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 here. In fact, you see people walking the streets and the sidewalks. And I thought, come on, you're looking at the phone. And what if you step off the curb, whatever? They get a little fixated with it. Point is, too, is you don't take so many photographs from your phone. Okay. Right. I really still think it's good to use a professional photographer, especially if you want something really, really nice. Right. Cruise lines have changed as far as their dressing protocols. Mm-hmm. Some are casual, others still have some nights. But once again, if you get dressed up, you want a really great picture taken of you. I think it's better to have a professional do it from professional rather than trying to go like this, and you can't really see yourself too well,
Yeah, that's very much the case and everything. So I definitely agree with you in that space. And definitely, like I said, as I went on that cruise, the one that I've been in my life, the thing I remember was, like I told you before, there were some great bands that were doing some R&B type covers, and I had the pleasure of meeting some of those musicians. I think some of them have even had some fame or had been part of other groups and all in that way. But I also did get a chance to talk a couple of times, because of my own radio background, to the DJs. And yes, the DJs have to keep that party going, whether it's on the pool side of a cruise or whether it's on the different clubs that exist in the cruises. So there was oftentimes multiple DJs. I think I had the pleasure of talking to about 2 of them on the cruise that I went on in that space. Like I said, I actually just saw the program that of the part of the trip that I did not get to go to, because I want to say that a lot of times the cruises will have those islands that they own, and I think the one we went on was Half Moon Bay or something like that, but we didn't actually get to go to that because there was the turbulent weather. So the cruise just kind of like the boat went around and then went on to coming back to the port where it came from, and all in that space. But if it's okay with you, and this is another one that's a little bit lengthy, but I think it's a good one because we're going to get to hear some music. So let's see how this particular gentleman got his job as a DJ.
Great.
What's up, everybody? DJ A-Rock. I'm inside the nightclub. I was going to try to shoot this vlog up on the Lido deck, under the sun, with the fun, with the funnel behind me, so on. but the weather just was not going to handle, just way too windy up on deck 11 and 12 of the cruise ship. So I'm inside the nightclub right now, Liquid Nightclub, on board the Carnival Breeze. So every single week I get asked the same question from a lot of guests. Most of them are DJs. Number one question I get: how did I get a job on a cruise ship? So in this vlog, I want to talk about how I got started working for Carnival Cruise Line 5 years as of 2 weeks ago. So now with the company for 5 years. So, you know, people always like, how did you get the job and what do I need to get a job working on a cruise line? Now, I can only answer for the cruise line I work for. I don't work for any other cruise line. I don't subcontract anybody. I exclusively work for Carnival Cruise Line. So number one question is, how did I get the job on board the cruise ship? Actually, it was very simple. Attended the DJ Expo in Atlantic City going on 6 years ago. And they had open interviews for DJs. And I just said, you know what, why not? Let's try it out. Attended the open interviews. Fortunate enough, I had just came off a cruise, so I knew kind of what they were looking for from a DJ. Now, I have over 20 years of DJing experience, from doing weddings to hosting concerts to DJing concerts to MCing parades and so much more, from festivals and more. So I got a nice background, 20 years experience of DJing. So when I went into the open interviews, I kind of knew I need to show them that I am a well-rounded, all-around DJ, that I can appeal to every different type of demographics, from the age to wherever. So on board this ship, we have 4,700 people on board, ranging from the age 6 months to 106 years old. All right, so that lets you know what you got to appeal to. So did the open interview, they called me up, I got hired. Here I am 5 years later working for Carnival Cruise Line. Now, what do you need to work on a cruise ship? Number one thing you need to work on a cruise ship: a passport. You gotta have a passport. This is a worldwide corporation. They have ports in Australia, Hawaii, Alaska, Canada, Europe, and so many states in the US. But you gotta have a passport to travel. Why? Because we go to all these Caribbean islands. So you got to be able to prove documentation of where you're from, where you live at, and so on. So you got to have a passport. Number two, you got to have a press kit. You got to have some kind of resume, some kind of digital resume to show the highlights of your DJ career, what you are good at, how long you've been doing it for, where you have worked at, past venues, past residencies, what you have done. All right. 3, you need to have a video. Not just a video you just out at a house party or at the club, but you need to have a professional video showing what you can do. What can you offer this company? 10 minutes usually is what they want to see. And, you know, in that 10-minute video, I suggest try to include as many genres of music that you can. Because on board, you're not just going to play rap. You're not just going to play trap. You're not just going to play EDM. You can play a little bit of everything. This past week, I played 60s and 70s for an hour for our theme night. We did an 80s disco hour. We did a sock hop, which was 50s and 60s music. We had top 40 and so much more. Last night, I played 50s music, 70s music, 80s music. We did a Latin hour. So I played stuff from salsa, bachata, merengue. We had a Caribbean night. So I did dancehall, soca, and reggae music inside the nightclub. This is not counting me up on a Lido deck and what I'm playing during the daytime. So just think of all these different genres of music out there and try to clue them into your demo reel, because they want to see, can you appeal to the audience that's coming on board? So like I said, you got people from all over the world traveling on board the cruise ship, not just from the US. People on board from England, people from Canada, people from Australia. You know, you got so many different people traveling. You got to be able to make sure that you can appeal to all these groups on board. You got to be a well-rounded DJ. Now, I got to tell you, when I first started, I knew a little bit about Latin, a little bit about Caribbean, knew a lot about 70s and 80s, 90s, rap, you know, and EDM, right? So over the years, I have trained myself to learn more. So now I can do a whole night with nothing but salsa, a whole night nothing but reggae, a whole night nothing but bachata. I can do a Caribbean set for an hour, 2 hours inside the nightclub playing dancehall and soca. You know, so you got to be able to appeal to the crowd that's attending the club. This is a big club. We can get 300 plus people inside this club every single night. but not everybody in this club want to hear Cardi B all night. You got to be able to appeal to the people coming in here. And the thing about a cruise ship is every 7 days, or if you're on a shorter cruise, every 3 to 4 days, you got a different group of 2,500 plus people getting on board. I've been here for 3 months, and every single week I had a different group of 4,500 plus people boarding the ship every single week from all over the United States, all ages, all walks of life on board. And guess what? They're going to come to the nightclub one of the 7 days or all 7 days. So I got better make sure I keep my sets fresh and keep the people attending, my clients, my guests in the nightclub entertained. So that being said, passport, a press kit is placed out there that can put a press kit together, or you can do it yourself. And of course, a demo reel. Now, I get a lot of guys always asking this question, and I'll just be straight up with you. Carnival is a corporation. Zero drug tolerance, zero drugs. So yes, you will be drug tested to get a job with this company and a lot of other corporate cruise lines out there. Got to put it out there because people always ask that question. Come on, you want to work, you know what you got to do. Lead the stuff, basically. All right, I can't tell you, but I'm just letting you know. Yes, you will get drug tested. Bam, it's out there. But besides that, you got to have a passport. You should have a passport. You want to travel anywhere. So there we go. Try and keep this video as short as possible. Got any more questions? Hit me up in the comments section. Hit me up at DJ A-Rock Ohio on Instagram. You can find me at DJArock.com, or you can just find me on the Carnival Cruise Line. DJing. I'm out. Peace.
That was the DJ tell you how he got the job, and even showed a little bit of the backdrop in the background. And he saw a couple of people getting their dance groove on, and like he was out of Ohio, but I do know there are DJs from all over the country and all over the world to get those jobs. And like he said, you got to know what the ramifications are. So if you've been involved in certain parts of culture, you need to leave those parts of culture alone, because like he said, they will drug test, and they will probably test even for alcohol and other things, because there are certain rules that you've got to abide by in those corporate settings, as he made very clear, and those rules are very much in effect. So you just can't think that you're going to be able to do what you did in your college circuit and some of your other circuits and get the job that you want if you want that job. And like you said, you definitely need to have that passport and all in that space. But the DJ is an important part of the cruise. I know when I went, they definitely had the folks over there dancing and grooving. I even got my dance feet going a couple of times and everything. So you definitely got to get those dance grooves on. And like he said, it's both on the clubs, like he mentioned the clubs that he was at, but it's also on the deck, because they also have the music playing while folks are poolside and all in that way. I'm thinking that even Cindy got her groove on a couple of times when she went on her cruises and all those lines. I know I've got 2 left feet. She told me that she's got 2 left feet as well, but sometimes you can still get those grooves going even with those 2 left feet. So that's what he was saying. And I don't know if I'm correct in thinking that you might have 2 of those left feet as well, but that's what he was giving us some insight on. But I don't know what you thought. I thought it was a good conversation, and I was actually quite pleased to learn about some of the things that go on in that space. But that was a little bit that he was sharing with us about what happens in that system and all along those ways.
That's great, though, because once again, the music varies so much, and the thing is, it's not just one style music.
No.
You vary the music according to the venue, whatever, and there's so many different choices out there. One thing I really like, too, is sometimes they'll do things outdoors, which is great. Mm-hmm. It's just, really just wonderful to be actually relaxing when you're in a chair and you're seeing the ocean, listening to music. And they got different specialty music things going on, too, besides, their nightclub things, too. So once again, it's just kind of great to really think about different options as far as kind of music that you like to enjoy, because you can do it on a ship. Yes.
You can do it on a ship. That can be your job on the ship. Maybe you did it as he did at a club. He said he used to do it on festivals and in a number of other places, but he actually has the job now for a few years on the ship and all in that space. So definitely it is something that folks might want to consider if they've already been in that space, that they might want to look at having a cruise job. And that could be another way to see the world and see what the world is all about. But like I said, I do have that other person that is one of your favorites at everybody. And she's oftentimes asked how she rides a or drives a boat and how she does it when she's also walking around. And she explains that in this episode of her own segment and everything. So we're going to hear from Captain Kate McClue, and she talks about some of the people that help her out as she goes around and some of the various jobs that are needed. Because sometimes while she's doing her what do you call it, ambassadorship kind of part of the job title, there are other people that are actually running the ship and helping the ship move. And she talks about those folks in this particular video that she provided as well. So it was all right with you? We're going to see this one as well.
I love Captain Kate. She's beautiful. She's in my second book. I met her. When I met her, she wasn't driving the ship, okay? She was on the Celebrity Edge christening cruise. They had different captains, of course, besides the actual captain of that specific ship, too. But second day, they took us out to sea, and I thought I saw her swinging a chair. So I went over and I said, "Are you Captain Kate McClue?" She's, "Yes, I am. Yes, I am." And I have my picture taken with her, too, which is great. But she's such an energetic person, just down to earth, gorgeous, amazing person. And just, she is still the only American woman captain of a cruise line ship.
Well, let's check out what Captain has to say about her job and some of the people that help her in that job.
Great.
When we're underway and I walk around the ship, one of the questions I get asked all the time is, if you're here, who's driving the ship? And the answer is the officer of the watch. We have a minimum of 3 very qualified and licensed officers manning the bridge at all times. 3 different teams rotate every 4 hours on and 8 hours off. The teams are made up of an officer of the watch, assistant officer of the watch, and a quartermaster or lookout. The terms steering, navigating, maneuvering, or just to keep it in layman's term, driving is used. There are several different methods that we use to quote-unquote drive. The first, and what everyone is interested in, is always the ship's wheel or helm. Surprising to most, it's smaller than the wheel in your car. It doesn't have to be the gigantic wooden wheel with spokes of back in the day, because today everything is electronically linked. It's still made out of wood though, at least on the edge. The wheel is usually used when we pick up the pilot until we're close to the pier, and then again after we've left the pier until we drop the pilot off. A smaller version of the wheel is, you guessed it, called the mini wheel. It's the same idea as the helm. Turn the wheel to port and the ship will go to the left. Turn the wheel to starboard and the ship will go to the right. The third method is the ECDIS, which is basically a digitized chart computer system which has replaced paper charts. There are no longer paper charts used for navigation on any of our Celebrity ships. In the ECDIS system, we can plan a specific route, double check it and make sure that it doesn't pass over any land, and when we engage the system, the computer will keep us on the red dotted line or track, plus or minus 5 meters at all times. Because it's so precise and the ship is constantly adjusting to stay on the track, it means that it's not the most fuel-efficient option. For that reason, we tend to use the autopilot more often. The officer of the watch puts in the heading they want to steer, and the ship will maintain that heading. But the wind and the currents could affect the actual course by pushing the ship further away from the track, so the officer of the watch must monitor it to ensure that we're still on the intended track that we want to be. Once we get to a port, that's when the real fun begins. Most people assume that the pilot does the docking and undocking of the ship. The pilot's role in navigation on board comes up frequently. We take pilots coming and going from the ports of call. When the ship is approaching a port, we open the same shell door on the side of the ship, usually around where the gangway is located, and we put out a ladder and the pilot climbs on. We bring them up to the bridge, give them a briefing on the status of the ship, and make them part of our team. They in turn provide us with information about the port, including weather, tides, currents, mooring arrangements, expected traffic, and any updates to navigation aids, for example, if they've moved a buoy. Once we're alongside, the pilot will disembark and then come back again just before departure. The pilot boat will follow the ship out and take the pilot off safely after we've left the pier and past the sea buoy. When it comes to the actual maneuvers of the ship's docking and undocking, we split these maneuvers between our own bridge officers because it's kind of the most fun part of the job besides blowing the horn, obviously. I'll take 40 to 50% of the maneuvers, and the remaining 50 to 60% I assign to everyone from the second in command, which is our staff captain, to the third officer, so that they have the experience of docking and undocking the ship. That way, by the time the most junior officer will reach the position as master, they have hundreds of maneuvers under their belts. When we approach the pier, the bridge officer who will perform the docking will take the con or the conduct from the pilot. Then we switch to maneuvering mode, which gives us individualized control of the ship's propulsion, which in our case are the azipods or azimuthing propellers. What that means is that they rotate a full 360 degrees, so we don't need stern thrusters. We have a lot of power at our disposal. The Celebrity Edge has a total of nearly 72,000 horsepower, and each of our 4 bow thrusters is around 4,800 horsepower. That's right, we go around beating our chest a lot. It also means that we don't need tugs to assist unless the weather is really not cooperating, with excessive winds usually above 35 knots on the side of the ship. That's when we'll take a tugboat because it's affordable insurance. With all that power and the enormous responsibility, we have a little something special to assist the officer that you won't find on all ships, and that is Bug Naked, also known as the maneuvering support animal. She has a keen sense and loves to stand beside whoever is doing the maneuver, and I've had officers tell me that she absorbs the anxiety that comes with the pressure of performing for the first time. Now, in some of the ports, we can't dock because maybe there isn't a pier. We have the option to drop the anchor, or we can use the DP, or Dynamic Position System. The DP uses GPS and a computer that synchronizes the propellers and thrusters to keep us exactly where we want to stay without having to put an anchor on the ocean bed. The system will fight against the elements to keep us in that exact location until we're ready to leave. We can maneuver using all methods from the center cockpit, but when we're close to the pier, we can transfer the controls to either the port or starboard bridge wings, since they have identical equipment, and we can keep an eye on the side of the ship when we're coming alongside or departing the pier. One of the most satisfying aspects of maneuvering a ship like Celebrity Edge is being part of the junior officer's experience and success. We celebrate each of the firsts by giving them a memento to remember it by. Something along the lines of a key to the ship in the form of a keychain, because there really isn't a key to start the ship, or a license plate from the port of call that they've just done the maneuver, because you should never forget your first. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how we drive. Stay tuned for the next episode of How I See It, where we'll take a closer look at the azipods. And until then, this is your captain, wishing you fair winds and following seas.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Such a great informational type thing too. And as mentioned, I actually met her was sailing the christening the Celebrity Edge. She wasn't actually the captain of that ship. She was captain of one of the other Celebrity Cruise Line ships, but this is actually a picture I took of her.
Wow. Yep, that's her.
Wait, let me get it right there.
Yeah,
Yes.
there you go.
Amazing. Then I have a picture taken with her and somebody else. It was really great to finally meet her after reading about her and writing about her like crazy, and just such a phenomenal person. And the thing is, she took her background real quick too, how she got into navigating ships. She took a cruise with her parents when she was 12 years old with her family and came back and told her dad, when I grow up, Dad, I want to be a cruise director.
Okay.
Her dad said, Kate, you can do anything you want to do. She got into the Maritime Academy, graduated, had a hard time getting a job. So she actually applied to be a bartender on a cruise line ship. And they saw credentials. They got her in the door. And then she moved up, and then she became captain with Celebrity Cruises in 2015, which is great. So just amazing person, just a great person. And Bug Naked is her cat.
Yep.
Okay? Yes. He sails with her and helps her out a lot too. So that's good.
It seems like he's also a support animal for some of the other cruise mates as well. So definitely that was one of the things she was talking about, is how Bug Naked apparently helps with some of the other things that are going on in the cruise line, and definitely helps with making sure that the other staff members are in a comfortable place. So we definitely need those support animals and all in that line. Like I said, I do have those pictures. I hope I'm going to get them up today, but maybe we'll have them up next week from my friend Martin's cruise and all in that space. But in the meantime, I do know that sometimes when you go on these cruises, you get to go see some very exotic and wonderful places. So one of them was actually involving the area around Istanbul, and another was involving some areas around another part of like one of the religious symbols or systems that exist in the world. But I think that you will really enjoy this shorter video from Viking about some of the places that they go, including around Istanbul and all in that space. So as we get ready to wind down shortly, I think that folks will enjoy this particular one that is going to come to us and share some wisdom about what happens if you go on the Viking Oceans cruise and get to travel and see this part of Turkey. So let's check this out.
Step into the darkness and let your eyes adjust. What you'll see is a treasure that's been tucked away below the streets of Istanbul for centuries. The remarkable Basilica Sistine. Created as a sanctuary for water, the Basilica Sistine was carved from the earth by 7,000 slaves in 532 AD. This cavernous basin once held nearly 80,000 cubic meters of water. When the water disappeared, 2 stone sculptures of Medusa were revealed, the hair alive with venomous snakes. Who put them here and why, we may never know. But there's another treasure beckoning from the Basilica Sistine's shadowy depths. Deep in this forest of pillars, a hauntingly beautiful one stands alone. Known as the Column of Tears, this intricately carved roof support is said to bring good fortune, but only to those who pass a test of skill.
If you put your thumb into this hole and manage to complete a 360-degree spin of your hand, your wish is granted.
The Basilica Sistine is a fascinating part of Istanbul history. It's an intriguing masterpiece, especially considering its creators believed that once finished, it would be flooded with water and never seen again. Istanbul is rich in cultural treasures. I hope you'll go out and explore more of this vibrant city.
Beautiful. I love the music too. The music just kind of really pulls you in, plus all the visual things too, because it's one place I would like to see a lot of too. It just seems so beautiful.
Yeah, it's very beautiful. And like I said, it captured your attention, and that is one of the stops that you can make if you're going on that particular cruise, that you can go and visit Istanbul. And there was another one that I think you get to visit some of the more religious, iconic places and all in that space. So that's the last video. I had another one about the music that was composed, but we'll save that one for next week and everything. But this is one about another Viking Ocean and another kind of touristing thing that you can go and enjoy. And I think it's got some great music as well. So before I turn it over to you for the closeout, let's catch this one as well.
Istanbul. For centuries, it's been a place of common ground for 2 continents. This is where Europe meets Asia, and Christianity meets Islam. And at its heart, a timeless sentinel. While foreigners know this as the Blue Mosque, the real name is Sultan Ahmed Mosque. I found the magnificence of this place immediately brought me to a whisper. Details reveal themselves slowly, like pages from a treasured book. And because this is an active mosque, it offers a fascinating window into a culture few Westerners know well. Look closely. You'll notice how the intricate pattern in the carpet doubles as a guide, helping the faithful align with others for prayer. How worshippers wash 3 times, known as ablution, before entering. And how once inside, there is absolute focus.
We have to have intention. You have to face the direction of Qibla, and you're going to say, Allahu Akbar. The man like this and the woman like this.
Like this.
It means I put everything my own plans, my business, everything behind. Right now I am in front of Allah. I'm the consciousness.
Yes.
So it's called khushu.
The Sultan Ahmed Mosque is an important bridge of understanding between cultures. While the immense cascading domes were impressive, as were the 20,000 beautiful ceramic tiles and the 200 stained glass windows, what most caught my attention was the welcoming ambiance, the joy and even playfulness of everyone I met here. This is a place of sharing I'll always remember.
It is so important. Muslim, Christian, we welcome everyone.
Come, immerse yourself in the beauty and spirit of the Sultan Ahmed Mosque. Let us share with you the heart of this enduring masterpiece.
Once again, beautiful music, and then just the vision and beautiful photographs.
Beautiful music, beautiful vision, and like you said a couple of times, when you go on the cruises, there's a lot going on the boats, but then you can also get to stop at the ports, and sometimes you get to go on these great historical stops, like you can do on those two stops in Istanbul and everything. So they definitely have times that you can go and check out the ports and all in that space, and sometimes go on these historical excursions.
Right. And once again, it's just expanding too, because once again, we're seeing some more luxury cruise lines doing Antarctica, which is great. But also one thing that came up recently, AMA Waterways. They're been around for, I think, 22 years now. They actually started 2002. They got the plan together, but they're very successful. And of course, the name AMA Waterways, AMA means love.
Yeah.
Okay. And great company, family owned, been around for going in the 22nd year. What they did was they have beautiful ships, and Rudy Schreiner, the president, co-founder, is actually on the architect of the river cruise industry too. He's a former architect. But what happened was they just announced they're launching some new river cruises in the Columbia on the Magdalena River next year in 2024. Oh. And originally they were going to have one riverboat sailing there, but now they're going to have two different vessels, which is great. And they're going to be doing more updates on that too. But the Ama Magdalena and the Ama Elodia, I think, I don't know how to pronounce that. What they're doing is those are the two boats they're going to be having sail on in the Columbia on the Magdalena River next year, which is great. So I think it's kind of fun to think about that, because it offers different things. And once again, with those, because they're smaller, of course, they can navigate those smaller rivers. But once again, what's good too is with those two vessels, each will only accommodate 60 passengers in 30 different staterooms and suites.
And it looks like they're doing more discount fares. I know that I get a email on a regular basis from a thing called Vacations to Go, and all in that space. And I saw that Holland America was offering those that are part of the Vacation to Go newsletter or email lists and everything, discounts of up to 66%, and shipboard credits of up to $100 per cabin, a variety of popular itineraries visiting Alaska, Mexico, the Panama Canal, the Caribbean, and more. And Royal Caribbean was offering a similar discount. I think theirs was up to 87%. And they were also giving exclusive pricing, and you had to book by January 31st. And I also saw that both Norwegian and Celebrity were doing similar types of sales, and all in that space. I think Norwegian's was for selected departures in Alaska, Europe, and more. And Celebrity looked like theirs was for a variety also, and they even had some prepaid gratuities and a couple of free classic beverage packages and unlimited internet access. But there was a couple of these airlines, and some of them we'll have to get to. Actually, you just mentioned one of them. Definitely Princess, Regent, Oceania, Asa Maria, MSC.
It's called Asmara, yes. Asmara.
MSC Cruises, Carnival, Seabourn, and Cunard and Silversea, in addition to Windstar and Paul Gauguin Cruises.
Oh, it's called Paul Gauguin.
Paul Gauguin. And Atlas Ocean. And Kosha, and even the Sea Dream Yacht Club. So there quite a few of them were being offered. I might have missed one or two, like one that I've never heard of. We might have to check on them. But Ponant is offering a new immersive experience in an alliance with Smithsonian Journey. So I guess that's tied to the whole Smithsonian family and all in that space. So that's just some other ones. We might have to find some of their commercials on future episodes and all in that space. But I did see that they were offering these different kinds of sales discounts through Vacations to Go.
Yes. And the thing is, it's better to book further out because you have more choices and they have more, I think, availability too. Once again, you don't wait too late. Also, the thing is too, is if you're flying, make sure you get your airfare booked way far in advance because airline prices have been jumped up like crazy. I was just talking about that today to an exec friend of mine today. And once again, it's just the airline prices are high. It's best to get your cruise booked, but also get your airfare lined up too earlier so you don't wind up having some really, really bad flight times or the airfare is just so expensive.
No doubt about that. I'm going to pop off, let you have the last word. And I think we might have another commercial that we can play of one of the older ones, like either American Cruises or it's one of the other ones that is about cruises after you are done as we're going out and all in that space. Because I know we still have the J-Lo one and we still have the one with the brothers. I'll probably do the J-Lo one.
Yes. Great. Yes. But going back to more new ships, one thing that comes up too is we have a lot of new ships coming out this year. We don't have enough time to really cover more about new ships too much. I'll talk about more of that in my next week's episode. But once again, besides the Carnival Ascent, which has the 2 co-captains, which are brothers, coming out this fall, another one we've got coming out is Resilient Lady, which is actually with Virgin Voyages. And that's the one that Jennifer Lopez is kind of one of their spokespersons for, but it's their 3rd ship, and she's actually going to be launching this May, and she'll be starting from Athens, Greece, and then going on to Australia. But Resilient Lady is the name of that new Virgin Voyages ship, okay, which is great. We've got new ones coming out too, and it's too much to share right now at the end of my episode, but once again, I'll share more about these in my next episode. So once again, thank you so much for joining me today on Good Ship Happens. I'm Cindy Bertram, and look forward to more updates because next week I'll be able to see the MSC Meraviglia. It's MSC Cruises. It's one of the newer ships. What they're doing is right now she's sailing from Europe, and she's actually going to be sailing to New York City, where she's going to be actually sailing from year-round. So if you're looking for a great option for a cruise, sailing from New York City, the MSC Meraviglia is one to think about. I'll actually be on board her next week, which is great to see her, which is fantastic. But thank you so much, Cindy Bertram. Thank you.
I'm Dr. Sylvia Earle, a marine biologist, oceanographer, explorer, and I'm passionate about the protection of this blue planet. I grew up next to the ocean in the Gulf of Mexico, and I've witnessed how much the ocean has changed and how marine life has been endangered. But I know there is still time to help the ocean, which is why I was drawn to the Aponte family's sustainability mission. Explorer Journeys has a genuine ambition to connect people with the wonders of the sea, its marine life, its communities, spiritually, physically, and intellectually. We share the same values and have the same objectives to deepen people's relationship with the ocean, to explore, protect, and restore. Explorer Journeys calls it the ocean state of mind, a sensibility that will ensure the protection of this precious blue planet. Through my foundation, Mission Blue, we're working on ocean conservation, inspiring hope with champions across the world. Beginning with my extraordinary role as godmother to Explorer One, we will be heralding a meaningful collaboration between myself, Mission Blue, and Explorer Journeys and the MSC Foundation towards preserving and restoring the world's oceans, the blue heart of the planet.
Hi, Richard. How you doing? Ahoy, Jennifer. Lovely to see you. I'm so excited we're partnering on Virgin Voyages.
Yeah, I'm really excited too, but I was thinking that maybe before we announce it, that we should decide on my official title at Virgin Voyages.
Yes, and I already have a few options for you.
Okay.
What about something catchy like, don't be fooled by the ship that I got. I'm now Jenny from the dock.
Okay.
Dame Jennifer Lopez.
Isn't there like paperwork and like a sword involved?
Supreme Goddess of Mermaids.
You know what? Let's just tackle the title thing later. I'm just excited to share our gorgeous ships with the whole world.
Okay. Look, I'll brainstorm a little more and catch up soon on it. Mermaid in Manhattan?